you're serious about guitar, then why haven't you changed out your Chib grip? I mean, you change strings all the time, but you leave the same old Chib grip in your Chibonez gym? Gross. 9 out of 10 guitar players have a dirty tone hole with crusty tone foam. Clean out your tone hole with a brand new Chib grip. Chibson's patented formula of tone foam automatically scoops the mids so you don't have to. What I like to do is I get a Chibson disposable bag and I take my old Chib grip and I make sure I dispose of it properly. You don't want chemicals or bad tone leaching into your drinking water. Start scooping the mids today with a Chib grip.
Testicles, 1, 2, testing. Hey, welcome. We are here. Meaningful Times with Friends, everybody. We are back here, episode 21. Again, introduce everybody in case you don't know us. I'm Dave. That's Jason on location. Nathan from Newark. Ramshackle Dan in a fresh new office over there. And we are here back to talk about all kinds of stale subjects and topics and whatever that is not relevant. So, first off, as always, let's get our affairs in order. We usually have things that we need to apologize for. So this week is no different. We do have some apologies to be made.
Yeah, so my apology is going to be brief. Namely, I'd like to apologize for saying fuck those people about the people who did not come out in high school.
All the cowards after we graduated who came out, I was so pissed off. I'm still pissed off about that. Fuck those fucking people. Fuck them all.
Reflecting on that statement, I realized that I was very lucky in that I had cool parents and I had cool friends and I had a cool, attitude problem that was very confrontational. So it was much easier for me to come out than probably would have been for many other people. And so I would like to officially say unfuck them. And it's all good that they came out on their own time.
Very thoughtful. We had no complaints over that, just to state the facts. So that was all on Jay. He watched the episode and was disgusted with himself and proceeded to shame himself via our chat. And we were like, we're cool. It sounds cool. It wasn't that bad. And it's like, no, I must apologize. And this is the apology. Ramshackle, you had an apology?
Yeah, I wasn't afforded the luxury of self-reflection because I was viciously attacked in the YouTube comments. I am rich. I'm not ashamed of it. I fucking work really hard. And
also, I have an apology. We talked all about Chappelle and Chappelle's show, and we neglected to mention, I neglected to, because actually I didn't, I should know better. Half of the Chappelle show, what made it so brilliant, was a guy named Neil Brennan. Neil Brennan has a new special out called Crazy Good. It's actually really funny and it's pretty good and addresses a lot of the stuff that were some of the things talked about in Chappelle's kind of little tortured world, and Neil addresses them with quite astute conscientiousness and funny and hilarious, whatever. It was very 50-50, Chappelle and Neil Brennan, who wrote and created those episodes. Dave was just the face. So I just wanted to say, forgot to mention Neil Brennan. So apologies to Neil Brennan. In case he ever got wind of us and that he didn't get the credit from Meaningful Times with Friends that he deserves. And Nate, no apologies. You're good. You're living clean and content.
I'm okay with the asshole-ish things I say on here. I don't know why anyone would really care what I think about the Grateful Dead or high school reunions.
Clean conscience, Nate. All right, so now moving on. Our next topic.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was an article that popped up on my phone. Somebody was heckling John Cougar Mellencamp. I know he's John Mellencamp, but he's John Cougar Mellencamp because it's a more ridiculous name for his ridiculous behavior.
Part of who he is. Yeah, it's his identity. I don't understand why he would remove the cougar. The cougar really is, it's a fierce animal, and it's a good part of his identity.
Horny older woman, it's all kinds of things.
Yeah, if he was Cougar John, he'd be like a MILF pimp.
Mm-hmm.
But also speaking of John Cougar, Jason and I came across this CD at CD Warehouse for a band called John Cougar Concentration Camp.
I remember that, yeah.
Which I listened to a little bit today. They're like a lower grade NoFX. It's like the songwriting's a little worse. The vocals are actually worse. The drumming's worse. Like everything's a little worse, but it's still better than John Cougar Mellencamp, which is silly. So he was doing a show. Why he's doing a show now, I have no idea. Oh yeah, because people want to hear things like "Hurt So Good" and "Jack and Diane," but he had other ideas. And someone in his audience, a paying customer, said, "Hey man, can you play something like we want to hear?" And he got all pissed off and yelled at the guy. And then to teach everyone a lesson, the people that pay him, he stormed off in the middle of Jack and Diane.
I can picture him just saying, "Here's a little ditty," and just walks off.
Yeah, I reread that article today, and I guess storytelling is like a big part of his repertoire now. It's kind of what he does in between the songs. Like he's this guy in his 70s who just wants to tell little personal, little tales in between his jams, I guess.
Well, one of the things that I brought up in response to this was that I think Cougar, he's aging. He's obviously spry in this photo right here, but he's what age is he? Does anybody know? He's in his 70s probably, I would think.
Yeah.
And one of his peers, I would call him his peer, I would think, who has become incredibly popular is Bruce Springsteen. Yeah. And his relevancy seems to be, just growing. The guy was on Curb Your Enthusiasm's finale, for Christ's sake. But Springsteen's been like, people have been bonering over him for a long time. And I guess he did a Broadway performance not too long ago where he did this, like basically telling stories about his songs and his life and all of that. And so I think Cougar here, or not Cougar, just John Mellencamp, removing the Cougar, thought that that's what the kids are interested in these days. So I think that's what he was trying to do, is try to follow suit, Johnny Come Lately style. Johnny Come Lately Mellencamp. How about that? Would that be?
Yeah, or he could be just a self-indulgent douchebag who's like pretty much like he's always been like Bruce Springsteen light, and he still is. I'll just say my piece now, and I'll move on. This is the whole.
Are you gonna die after you? Say my piece.
That would be the saddest death. It's like his last words are about John Mellencamp. Fucking hell.
There you go. John Mellencamp eats shit. Drops mic.
Yeah. I know the waxing poetic about Heartland Rock was the last thing I did on this planet. The one thing I'll say in Mellencamp's defense is like Bruce Springsteen is one of the most overrated musicians of all time. He can barely sing, and his songs are like okay. He's like a shittier version of Tom Petty without all the fanfare and the fucking obsession. But like this is the thing, nobody rates Mellencamp anything more than he is, which was like a shittier version of Bruce Springsteen, except for apparently John Mellencamp, who wanted to wax poetic. But one of my pet peeves is when artists don't want to play their hits, or they want to like torture you with shit you didn't come to hear. And then it's even worse when they shit on their own fame. And I'll at the risk of offending Jason, Radiohead. So there are people who really love Radiohead, like legitimately. I recently, after like Jason telling me like which album to listen to, it's just boring. But that's just my opinion, right? But most people have never really like dug into the Radiohead catalog. Most people have heard Creep. Most people like Creep, except for Radiohead. They denounce that song, which to me is absurd. Like that's the reason you have all of this like ability to make all this money.
It's quite literally the only Radiohead song I know.
Horrible
or
song.
could name.
Jason said horrible song. Is that correct? I want that on the record.
I hated. I thought Radiohead were terrible for years and years and years and years because of that song. And then I found out that they actually do have a lot of interesting stuff apart from that song. So I don't blame them for not wanting to play that song. The song fucking sucks.
Yeah, I did agree that Springsteen was overrated, but he's just become this phenomenon. Yeah, and then what you're saying, that it depends on the artist, really. I think Radiohead's managed to build much more of a career out of making, these concept albums that have grown beyond Creep. So it's like, yeah, they don't really. I think a lot of their fandom isn't that interested in Creep either. Creep was a hit.
Most people only
that
know
launched
Creep.
them.
That's how they got famous. And one of the things they did, if you remember, Dave, before Louis C.K. did it, I think they did the direct to the audience. They put it out with actually just asking for donations. I don't even think.
It was the album in rainbows.
In rainbows.
So, anyways, that was really cool.
The third album after Kid A.
anyways, I kind of lost interest after Creep. But the only person I'll give credit for denouncing his pop song is Mark Wahlberg. After the Funky Bunch ditched him to go solo, like he quit music entirely. So like that's fair. Like if you're gonna say like this weird shitty white guy rap that I did, like I denounced it, I don't want to talk about it. That's fine because he doesn't fill up stadiums on the heels of Good Vibration or Take a Walk on the Wild Side. Like he's gone in a completely different direction and has reinvented himself as a different type of artist. But other than that, if you're so fucking precious, like you can't acknowledge your own like success from your own song, and especially if you're going to be such a man bitch and you're going to like storm off stage in the middle of your song, like that is utterly contemptible douchebaggery.
What it does is it kind of pokes at a weakness that a lot of artists that are like kind of are salt to the earth, middle America, kind of the salesman of that shit, which is what Cougar Mellencamp was. The good ones tend to have a sense of humor about themselves. If the stories were boring, that's why they got heckled. If the stories were interesting, if they had some humor to them, then there would be some entertainment value there. Because there are people that do a lot of. I mean, Tom Waits is one of those guys that he's Mr. Weirdo. I haven't seen him live. I don't know what his live show's like, but he seems like one of those people where he could probably drone on. And they would just be like, "Oh man, he's fucking brilliant because he's Tom Waits." And like the guy hits a fucking pot, and everybody thinks it's fucking amazing. But counterpoint though to your assertion, one of your favorite artists, Weird Al Yankovic, did an entire tour. The tour was named like all of his own songs or some shit. It was none of his hits, which are parodies of hits. He did none of that. It was all of his original music. So he did do a tour of like outright stating that this is all the shit that you don't want to hear. So,
I think that's a big difference though. Like if at least he's letting people know what you're in for. It's way different if you go to see some band that was big at one time and they're like, no one's heard of us for 30 years, but we're only going to play shit we put out like this year. At least you let people know. You're not walking in blind like, oh fuck, he's not going to do Eat It. I'm out of here.
Well, what did I mean, we don't know what Mellencamp was billing this tour, like the 60% talking, 40% songs tour or something, you don't know. Well, I mean, that's the thing.
So my question in all this is how much of a performance is for the artist versus how much of a performance is for the crowd? You know what I mean? Like, what's the balance there? Is it mostly for the paying crowd that they're doing this for, or is it to indulge their own shit and be like, here's what I'm up to right now,
I want to force Jason to say something. Jason?
Well, in response to that, I think that the whole problem here is that John Mellencamp hasn't earned the right to step up on stage and start telling stories about his grandma, because he's clearly, people aren't there for that shit. And he's being an asshole if he expects people to indulge his whim and not provide what they probably paid good money to go see, which was the fucking hits. I mean, it's not like he's got does he have a new album out? Who cares? You know what I mean? It's like people are there probably to see the songs from when he was young and cute. You know what I mean? And so now he's old and tired and wants to like take a break and tell a story about his fucking grandma. Nobody was there for that. So he's a total dickhead for like expecting people to indulge. He hasn't earned that indulgence,
Well, okay. Well, then what did Bruce Springsteen do to earn it? Like, that's what I'm curious about with this earning. People, like, you need to fucking slay a dragon, motherfucker.
He's not walking off.
Oh, he isn't walking off stage.
So,
but what's the difference? Why is that Springsteen has such? I think he's just more entertaining, maybe, in how he does it. Because
I don't get either of their popularity. So I mean, I have no fucking idea. You know what I mean? Like I can't.
But we need an answer from you, Jay. All right, you're the one that's going to have to answer for this. So, no,
I have no answer.
Do you remember Halford had a Bruce Springsteen poster in his classroom?
Yeah, and Halford's the total type of pretentious, bonerhead that would like that stuff.
I was wearing a Neil Diamond t-shirt, and he's like, Neil Diamond, huh? I always found his music rather simplistic. And I'm looking at him like, you mean like born in the USA? I was born in the USA. I was born in the USA. You mean like that?
Can't start a fire
Can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's
without a spark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
He's right up there. I want to say what the stuff that Cougar Mellencamp. I see them both kind of similarly. Like they were both popular at the same time, trying to sell some Americana type of popular rock and roll, and which like had a hint of country to John Cougar Mellencamp. Springsteen was more Mr. Working Man from New Jersey, but somehow Springsteen has managed to be a mainstay of contemporary culture in sense, as opposed to Mellencamp. And yeah, I don't know of any more recent hits of either of the two. Yet somehow Springsteen again, he parlayed it into some sort of one man show where he did a lot of talking between songs, and I think Cougar was just trying to emulate that, and the fans were like, "Nah, bitch, we want the hits. Like, we don't." And you know who didn't do any of this and did it with grace? Eddie Money. All right, Eddie Money. There's a guy who grew old and died without telling a goddamn story about 2 tickets to paradise
And that guy was like on the county fair circuit for like 20 years.
Yeah, he was. Salute to Eddie Money right there, man. So the money man. But yeah, I guess how much does an artist I think it depends on the artist. That was the thing I was asserting in our chat was if you're an artist whose popularity resides around hit songs and then how much of that I think Radiohead, they made their hit song. Even though they had hits after that, they didn't seem to aim for that. Like their hits were very unconventional. They kind of went in the direction of like, we want to go away from what the math was that brought that fame. It did propel them. It launched them to some extent with an audience, but they also seem like the type of group that if they didn't have that level of popularity, they would still have like kind of continued on and soldiered on and done their thing. They're just, they are really good musicians. But it depends on the artist. How much of it, what is your style of art? What are you doing? Do you care about that kind of thing? Because if you are a popular artist, there are popular artists who kind of do it. Prince came up. I brought up Prince because there was an artist who definitely came up making a lot of hit songs, known hit songs. And then at one point in his career, really detached from it all, primarily because of his religious, I think his Jehovah's Witness outlook on things.
I saw him in around 2006 or so. He was still selling out arenas. I saw him at the Shark Tank. What's that arena called down there in San Jose? I don't know what.
HP Pavilion. Yeah.
And I mean, he hadn't had a hit at that point in probably 20 years, and it was amazing how he sold that place out. But he barely played any of the songs that he was known for from the 80s. I mean, you got like a medley of like his Purple Rain era songs. Like I think he did the opening lick to When Doves Cry, and it was like, yes, he's gonna play them, and then he just played 5 seconds of like Let's Go Crazy and Controversy, and you got this like, and it was just like all jams. The whole concert was just long form jams, funky jams. It was like, if you followed the guy for all of his career, I'm sure it was cool. But if you were like me and you were just there to hear the classics, it was totally a typical example of being kind of like, oh, that was cool, I guess.
For the artists that I tend to go see, there are songs that I definitely like that are some of my favorites, but they also tend to have a catalog. One of the artists who actually does this a lot, who's not a mainstream artist by any means, Big Business. I really enjoy them. They're a bass and drums duo. They're out of the Northwest. And they have a catalog of albums. I really enjoy a lot of songs from a variety of the albums, but most of the time when they perform in any area, they're doing mostly songs from their most current album. And if they do select songs from a past album, it's almost never the songs that I'm really that into. But I enjoy them live all the same. I'm never going to their concerts like, play Shields or something. But that's kind of what I've come to know with them. They actually did play one of my favorite songs the last time I saw them, which I was like, holy shit, they actually went to an old album. Cool. Jason, you like a lot of weird shit. What album, what bands do you know that do they pander to you?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, Skinny Puppies, well, they're not touring anymore, but they're great because they always played like a range of stuff. And then they in the times that I've seen them after they reformed, like they didn't really concentrate on the new stuff, which is good because I didn't like most of the new stuff. So, but at the same time, like they're like duty bound to play certain songs, and I'm kind of like, I really don't need to hear like Assimilate again. I don't really need to hear Warlock again because I've heard it, whatever. And but those are the songs that they always play because those are the big hits, and the fans, will die if they don't hear Assimilate and fucking Warlock. But they were always really good about like playing a spectrum of stuff. And then I don't know, for the most part, like I want to hear the new stuff from bands when I go see them play. I don't want to hear their old stuff because I've already heard it. You know what I mean? So, and like for like Depeche Mode or something, like I wouldn't go see Depeche Mode now because I don't like any of the new stuff really. But like they were put out a double album of live stuff from the classic era. So I'll just listen to 101 if I want to hear old Depeche Mode live. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like I understand most people want to hear that. So I feel like the band should like probably find a way of balancing the old and the new, if they, I mean, I know they want to play new material, but I don't know. If I was, I could never be in a band because I couldn't do the same thing over and over again. Like it would drive me crazy. So like, I don't blame people for not wanting to play a song they wrote 20 years ago and played to death, over and over again.
Well, I do. I will blame them because yeah, if you don't, really, if you can't take the heat, don't be writing songs, motherfucker. Especially if they're ones that people like. And if you want to try to divorce yourself from them or try to move on to talking a whole lot, you got to be as good an entertainer and all your jibber jabber as your songs were that got people in. If it's not, people will probably talk back to you and shit. It's funny that you say I'm going to go back to them. No, I know we've had our differences over this, but the Melvins, not only are they a band who play all kinds of new material and old material in any one of their sets, but they leave no room for heckling. They're all business, going right from their songs and very efficient. Another band who does that, Slayer, when they would play live, and I do believe they're playing again whenever they would play live. Not a lot of time between songs. And if a band's good at like jibber jabber, I don't mind them fucking do it if they're entertaining. I don't know if I'd want to see John Cougar Mellencamp ever. And if I did and he started yammering on, I don't know. I couldn't tell you how if it was worth like, hey, shut up, man. He's telling a story. Or like, hey, Cougar, can you fucking get it on, man? Let's get to a song or something. I wouldn't know. So I'd have to witness that.
It was weird when we saw Joan Jett. Nathan wasn't there, but the three of us were. There was this guy in the band who I didn't know who the hell he was, and he kept telling stories. And he was just like, in 1978, we used to sell cassettes out of the back of our Honda. And it's like, God, it was weird because she was delightful. Like like talk about like she played all the hits, she played whatever she wanted, and she was just freaking like humble and grateful. Like I think this was the first concert she played after COVID too. It was at Stern Grove. And it was just like, that's how you do it. It was just like a very humble, engaging. There was a lot of storytelling, but it wasn't by her. It was by that dude. But other than that, like
it wasn't long though. It did. I think a lot of times, anytime they do that, band needs a break to grab a drink of water. Yeah, you got to tune some shit. There's always all those little fucking things. If you are gonna get wax poetic and want to tell some story, I think you need to kind of read the room, as the comedians like to say. I don't think Mellencamp necessarily, if he did read it, I mean, he stormed off. That's I think maybe if people will want to go see that, like, hey, let's see if he gets mad this time.
We should do that. We could pool our money together and get some Mellencamp tickets. And then the second he fucking opens his mouth, it's boring. Move it along, Mellencamp. Small town.
That's a very rich thing to do right there. I don't know.
Very indulgent. Yeah, it's a privilege. I plan on exercising next time Mellencamp comes to town. I'll buy your tickets for you. I'm not rich.
That's the other thing too. I don't really go to concerts with like some demand of, I would want you. If like for instance, I've never been a fan of them. You guys hate them. I know Kiss. We came up during the Talk of the Bads, but I was never a fan. But I did get a free ticket to go see them when they reunited with their original lineup in the late '90s, and I got to see them live. And I hate to say it, but they put on a hell of a show, and they definitely played every one of those hits that got them to there, and they put on a whole elaborate stage show. By the end of the show, I was like, okay, I can understand why people enjoy them. But I can also I just saw a band recently, and we were talking about this actually a little bit. I saw a band called Prong, which not many people might know or remember. They were sort of a mid-level metal band from the early to mid 90s. They started as like a New York hardcore band. And they were always like kind of a fast and heavy, but different. They had a weird, unusual kind of difference in their songwriting approach. And then the main album that kind of got them noticed was this album called Beg to Differ that I still enjoyed. And I saw them play recently to a very small, not very small, but it was a small audience. It didn't fill the club they were in. They were playing with Voivod. They played 2 songs off of Beg to Differ, and they probably played only a handful of songs off their other albums that are known. But those songs, I wouldn't say they're that well known. And they played a variety of the new material that they were into. It wasn't a bad performance, but I definitely left there going like, these guys should have just played all of Beg to Differ, and everybody would have gone nuts. And a lot of bands are doing that today, where they're older bands that were known for one album, or not one album, but they're known for their, hits or whatever they're playing like a complete album. Like this band's reuniting to play this whole album, and they might play some other shit. But one of the bands, Ministry, that we're all fans of, when you guys couldn't make it to Ministry, and I could, they played mostly all songs off of Land of Rape and Honey, Mine Is a Terrible Thing to Taste, and NWO. And then I thought was a great idea. They went off stage, and then they came back, and all their encores were all their new shit, which was perfect, because I'm like, all right, cool, good time to leave. And so we didn't leave either. We saw all the encore shit. But
that would have been cool if their encore was like stories about John Mellencamp's grandma.
Yeah, that would have been cool. That would have definitely been cool. So
there's one last thing I do want to say, and that's this whole John Cougar Mellencamp thing. So he was John Mellencamp. The record company made him change his name to John Cougar Mellencamp, and so he dropped it when he had enough power to do so. That's why he's no longer John Cougar Mellencamp. So,
so that's a statement, right? Wow, I didn't know that.
He never liked the Cougar. That was not his idea. It was his management's idea, and they forced it on him.
Plot thickens right there.
I like the idea of force. He could have, said no.
Well, not if he wanted that money,
There you go. So he's not only.
I hate to say it though. His management's right though. I like the Cougar. I think the Cougar
got much better ring to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were right. He was like when most things, John Mellencamp is wrong.
Yeah. Just shut up, put the Cougar in it, and play your fucking songs,
right,
John.
Making
Cougar
the wrong choices
Mellencamp.
at every turn.
Yeah, he's the Billy Bean of Americana rock and roll. So
using sabermetrics to make songs.
Well, there we go. So lots of luck to you, John Cougar. Try and, I don't know, get a joke writer to write your stories, motherfucker. All right, moving on. Our next topic. This is a serious subject too. I'm not going to diminish this. This was brought to us by our dear Nathan from Newark, who I'm gonna just state this up top, man. Nathan's been a largely fairly vocal critic of the comic book movie mythos and whatever the popularity of them all. And yet, out of nowhere, Nathan goes, "Man, what's up with Robin? Why don't we get Robin in these movies, man?" It was kind of odd. Just, you never know with Nathan. And so Nathan, why don't you go ahead and state your beef?
I didn't present this as a topic. I brought it up because I knew what your reaction would be. Like, oh, Mr. doesn't like comic book shit, fucking has questions about Robin. But so I was watching this interview with Michael Keaton where he was talking about his biggest roles. And a lot of it, he was talking about the 1989 Batman movie, the Tim Burton one, which is my favorite Batman out of all the movies they've ever made. I was never a comic book guy, even as a kid. I just didn't like comic books. It always weirded me out when you'd be like, back when grocery stores had like the little roundabout of like comic books and stuff in like the magazine aisle. Like picking up a comic book, it was always like, oh, the X-Men number 500. Like there's 499 other episodes of the X-Men that I don't know about, that I'll never understand. So that kind of turned me off from comics at a really early age. But it also wasn't funny, which is a huge part of why I don't like comic book shit. But Batman was always sort of an exception to that, especially when we were younger. Like the old TV series from the 60s was wacky, kind of stupid, but it was funny. And then there was like 1970s into the 80s Hanna-Barbera Super Friends and like Legion of Doom fucking shit that was still had elements of funny, but Robin was always there up until 1989 when he suddenly was erased. And so my main question was, what the fuck happened to that guy? Like, why did Batman become the central feature of that duo? It's like, why couldn't they make Robin edgy and talk in a voice where he's like, I'm Robin? Like, what is that all about? And that's why I was asking you, like, maybe one of you guys could give me like a solid answer because I don't follow comic books enough to truly know.
I have a question. Was Casey Kasem the voice of Robin on Super Friends?
He sure was. Yeah, pretty sure.
That's probably why.
He was also the voice of Shaggy on Scooby-Doo. He did a lot of voices that people don't know about. Does anybody have a real like direct answer to Nathan's question?
I don't have a direct answer, but I have a hypothesis.
We have mild speculation.
We have mild speculation. No, and I will tell you right off the bat, because I do have self-awareness and humility, unlike some people think. I have known nothing about comic books. I'm less interested than Nathan.
I'm gonna walk off. I'm just hearing stories. No, I'm sorry.
You know, when I lived with my grandma. No, I think it's because like if you think from a kid standpoint, like Superman with super strength, Batman, had all these cool tools, and Robin didn't really do much. And so, if like you're gonna reboot this thing, like, what do you need him for? But again, I don't know.
Boy Wonder. He's the Boy Wonder. What do you mean?
What does it even mean? He's curious.
Wonders.
That's a superpower.
Boy
He's
Wonder,
wondrous.
I'm just watching Jason drinking his coffee. Probably, it's like, all right, I think I'm gonna shut up for this fucking segment. First off, you're the first person I've ever heard that ever said that the Batman and Robin TV show was funny. You thought that shit was funny. Anybody else?
Well, when I was like 8,
Even when I was 8, man, that shit was corny and stupid. What? Who else? Anybody else like that shit?
I loved it. I still
like
love it. I think it was great.
I'll watch it right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I genuinely enjoyed that shit.
I didn't. I was just like, damn, boom, pow, all that shit was dumb to me. I did watch Super Friends though. I did watch Super Friends, but I was just that not like I thought it was like so great. I think it was just one of Saturday morning cartoons. I watched a lot.
Meanwhile,
of
back at the Hall of Justice, I fucking love that stupid shit.
Yeah. If I watched it today, I'd be like, well, no, it's the same thing with like Transformers, the old cartoons. When I watch them now, I'm like, God, this shit's dumb. What's funny is I love the Transformers cartoons when I was a kid, but when I watch them now, the only thing that's held up in my mind is the Transformers movie. And part of the reason I love it is because I didn't see it until I was in junior high, but they murdered all of those first wave of characters in the first 20 minutes. And they killed Optimus Prime, and kids were horrified. They did not realize how much kids were attached to all those characters, and by killing them in the first 20 minutes, like it was essentially their Normandy of their cartoon afternoons.
The guys who created it were like, we just wanted to create a new toy line. We weren't trying to scare anybody.
That's all they were doing, and they didn't realize how much they were like killing everybody's childhood in doing so.
What I liked about the cartoon, I know this is the topic, the Transformers cartoon, was how they made the Dinobots like special needs.
Oh yeah. Me Grimlock. In getting back to why my speculation, and I'm pretty sure this, if I were to look this up, it would be probably hold up. John Peters was one of the people that is one of the main proponents behind Batman, and eventually also Superman later after the Dick Donner version. But he was one of the big producers behind that Batman movie and some subsequent ones. But he's the notorious former hairdresser of Barbra Streisand, who then became a producer. Like he's a character. He was a big cokehead. He's big into his overcompensating machismo kind of shit. He has said before in response to things or whatever that something is quote unquote too
that's a huge bitch.
And my hunch is he didn't want Robin involved didn't want the Robin character in the movie to focus on Batman, even though part of the whole rebooting of Batman at that time, a lot of it was based on not based on, but was inspired by the Dark Knight comic book, which did have a Robin in there. It didn't have your regular Robin in the Dark Knight comic book by Frank Miller. Robin was killed. Robin was already killed by the Joker. It was referred to in it, and then there's a young girl who becomes the Robin character in the Dark Knight Returns comic book. But yeah, John Peters is this notorious fucking weirdo who was producing the movie. A lot of people don't like him. Bradley Cooper does a great impression of him in the movie Licorice Pizza that is very accurate from what I'm understanding. And it's a very I know Jason doesn't like that movie, but who cares? It's still worth it to watch Bradley Cooper play John Peters.
Is that the movie where there's no licorice or pizza in it?
Yeah, I know. You're gonna have to walk off of that too, John Cougar. But yeah, so
Nathan's like trying to peel anything interesting for him out of Dave's like soliloquy. His fucking eyes are all back in his head. He's like, I'm so
whatever, man. Sorry, I'm just saying Robin's too gay. That's what I'm saying, ultimately. But they brought him back for Joel Schumacher's. Fucking movies.
Were those the ones with the nipple suits?
The nipple suits, yeah.
And jokes.
I sat those out.
No, you should. Oh, bullshit! You should be the one first row in the fucking thing because they brought the humor back. All right, that's all the Adam West style.
The Christian Bale Dark Knight is the movie that made me hate comic book movies. They turned it into this unfun.
We got that.
It's not fun, and it's just how about 90% of the movie is one long action sequence. That's it. All they did was make it a dumb action movie. And like, I'm sorry, but it could have used a little humor. At least the Tim Burton one was wacky a little bit. They have that darkness of like, okay, here's Batman, and but Jack Nicholson is fun. Like, there's aspects to it that, like, yeah, there's no Robin, back to my original point, but at least it was still fun without talking in a dumb voice. It's just like we have to have this origin story every time. We get it. His parents fucking died. He hates bats. He's this traumatized fucking dude. But still, all the fun's been sucked out of it.
I don't think Batman was ever intended to necessarily be fun. He was a crime-solving.
Regardless, there were fun iterations of Batman, right?
The versions you liked. No, you again are you're the one who likes happy dance fucking Batman from the 60s and you're the one person I've seen stand up like, whatever happened in the Super Friends version?
Nowhere in the Dark Knight or any of this Mr. Freeze bullshit do you see Sammy Davis Jr. making a cameo.
He would have in Joel Schumacher's. That's what I'm saying. If what you're asking for is in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, those are the two Joel Schumacher versions, and you haven't watched those. You didn't show up to the box office to those, Nate. You let Batman and Robin down in the nipple suits. They're filled with jokes. They're filled with tongue-in-cheek puns, and they had Arnold Schwarzenegger. So you didn't put your money where your mouth is. You fucked up, and you brought on Bale. You're part of the problem. That's my point.
Is that Jim Carrey in that too?
Yeah, he was in Batman Forever. That was the Val Kilmer brief appearance. And I actually didn't mind Batman Forever. Batman and Robin though, and I don't have any problem with Robin. They did, and even in your I fucking hate the fucking Nolan Batman. They did give a cameo nod to Robin in the character of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character in The Dark Knight Rises, which I was shocked because Nolan doesn't seem like he would pander to any of this. Jason, you have any thoughts on this at all, or you just want
not really? No,
you just want to take a fucking nap over there.
Pretty much. So. I mean, I just had my tea, so I'm pretty good about sleeping. But
really, all right.
I don't know.
You like the Batman? You like the old Batman?
I like the old Batman. I like Batman '89. I didn't care for any of the sequels. I did not like the nipple suit movie. I went and saw that when it came out, and I was very disappointed.
I think you need. That's what I'm saying. I think you guys need to go back and revisit Batman and Robin with George Clooney and Christopher O'Donnell. I think you should. I'm just saying, you guys.
What was this movie you guys were just talking about that you saw this past week? That was like a Joker thing or something?
Oh, People's Joker.
Wasn't there a Robin sort of situation in that?
Yes, we were saying the Jason, go ahead. You tell. You barely spoken a goddamn word, so go ahead.
It's better that way. So no, the People's Joker is a parody retelling of sort of using the Batman comic book mythos to tell a trans coming out story. So the Joker is actually a trans woman in this version of the story and is dating a character that's a parody of the Joker played by what's his name in the Suicide Squad Joker. That version of the Joker is a
it's Jared Leto. Jared Leto's Joker. Yeah.
So the Joker, trans Joker lady is dating Joker from another movie, basically, who used to be a Robin and was being preyed upon by Batman and in a sort of an inappropriate relationship sort of thing.
It's implying that Batman was a pedophile.
Right.
And the Robins were all victims of
Exactly.
his pedophilia. So that's funny.
Are we gonna get a graphic of your Jack Nicholson as the Joker in an LA Lakers starter jacket? Dave, that was a great costume.
I don't have that photo. I don't have that photo anywhere handy. It's buried in my mom's fucking whatever.
What I'm
photos.
saying, Dave agreed with you so much how fun that movie was. He took the funnest holiday of the year as a kid and he dressed up as a Joker. So don't let him feed you this line of bullshit. Like, he went full freaking costume about how much you love that movie.
I didn't love the Batman. No, I didn't love. I thought the Joker character was cool, but I wasn't like. Here's something to your extent. I don't think Batman is supposed to be funny as a kid. His parents died, for fuck's sake. Okay, so in terms, and that goes before your fucking 1960s bullshit TV show and the Super Friends. Super Friends, he wasn't like all jokey. In the Super Friends, I could buy that Batman and Robin. They were serious about trying to solve crimes, even though whatever. But where I will totally be 100% on board with you about this humor thing is in the Joker, this recent Joker movie that was very popular. Okay, the one with Joaquin Phoenix, the one that Vera Drew parodied for the People's Joker. The People's Joker was very funny, had a lot of layered jokes. It also had a lot of layered like Batman references and humor and all. Joaquin Phoenix's Joker movie ain't funny at all. As a matter of fact, he's a bombing comedian through most of it. And then even when he does become the Joker, that Joker ain't funny either. None of it. He's not funny at all. He's not clever. He's not anything. And one inherent characteristic of the Joker is that even though his humor is macabre, he's funny. He still has a dark sense of humor. You'll be sitting there, whether it's twisted or whatever, he is funny and charming to some extent. You're not supposed to root for him, but you're kind of like, but I get it. And Joaquin's Joker was none of that. What did he do? He danced down some stairs in the costume. He's supposed to be a guy with real mental illness. I bought that, and I liked his laugh. His laugh was really good for a Joker. The part that I thought would have been perfect if they would have made the movie better is when he came out in the makeup in the final scene. I'm spoiling the Joker here, but they're making the sequel. The sequel's coming out already. If you haven't seen it already, then fuck you. It's all the movies they're referencing. They're referencing Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy. And when he comes out to the TV show with Robert De Niro as the host and he's in full Joker makeup, he goes on a rant. And none of the rant's not funny. And then in the end, he pulls out a gun and he shoots Robert De Niro. And I'm like, wow, they missed the perfect opportunity to really make him the Joker where, yeah, he could say the things that he's saying, but there needs to be punchlines to it. He needs to be funny because the whole point he was on the show was that he was a comedian that was bombing. That's why Robert De Niro showed or why he's on the show. He showed the footage of him bombing and he was making fun of him bombing. So now that he's the Joker, the whole point is he's supposed to be like funny, and he's not funny at all. He rants, and then at the height of his rant, he pulls out his gun and shoots Robert De Niro. When it would have been more powerful if he was funny. He got the audience laughing, and then people are like, "Yeah, why are we laughing at him? He's actually really funny." He's whatever. Once he charms the audience, once he does what the Joker does, he gets you all like kind of thinking he's hilarious. Then he pulls out the gun and blows away Robert De Niro, and now you know he's a murderous psychopath. That's the Joker. So they fucked that up. That's
so Nathan, if you're looking for humor in the Batman universe, have you seen the Oscar the Grouch parody of the Joker?
Oh yeah, that's on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, that was really good.
That is amazing. I will send that to you.
Yeah, it's David Harbour plays the Grouch, and they do a parody of the Joker, but he's the Grouch.
It's
and yeah, it was from Saturday Night Live. It was pretty good.
So what is
But
Robin?
yeah, Robin was an acrobat whose family also died in like a tragic accident or whatever at a circus, and Bruce Wayne witnessed it, and he took him in because he was a new orphan. So he took him in, and it's basically because he's mentoring a fellow orphan. That's essentially what Robin was.
It was like a tragic version of Leaping Lanny Poffo.
Kind of, but that's no. Leaping Lanny didn't have a mythology like that. That was just he was the brother of Randy Macho Man Savage, man.
I'm with Nathan. I basically agree with 100% of everything Nathan said in this entire thing. And
yeah, I understood, but you're not core Batman fans. Again, and then the reason why you even brought it up was, as I said in the chat, was kind of like, why would this matter to you? You don't like Batman that much.
So, I was genuinely curious. It just seemed like such a big component to it early, and then it just reached a point where they erased, except for 2 movies, you said, that character for the most part. So mostly I was just curious what happened. Where'd the guy go?
John Peters I'm assuming, would think that the relationship was too homoerotic to depict in that movie. And then Ramshackle followed up with, weren't they the inspiration for the ambiguously gay duo? Which they were, which also, another inspiration for them, your precious super friends. I'm just saying, I think in our homophobic Hollywood that existed at the time, they were too afraid of too much of a man-boy relationship.
Hey, look, don't put me and Nathan
being mocked.
Homophobia, okay? If you and Jason are homophobic, that's fine. Don't include Nathan.
I'm not talking about this me being homophobic. I'm talking about Hollywood being scared. That's what the People's Joker mix is parroting a lot of in it. I mean, it's
maybe we've reached a point where we can stop beating around the bush, reboot the franchise. Batman and Robin are an adult gay couple fighting crime. Just fucking do it. We're advanced enough to get there now.
You guys write it, I'll direct it, and then we'll go from there.
Brought to you by Bud Light.
Yeah, you're right. They don't seem to be wanting. There's no rush to bring him back. In the comic books they made Robin kind of cool. They turned him into a character, Nightwing, which was like the more brooding version of Robin. Cool. All right, I think we've talked ourselves into a dead end here.
All right.
Yeah. Jason looks like his screen's frozen. Oh. All right, our last we're back to the songs and the music. We've got our track for today, and this again, another Nate selection.
Lately, when I'm not listening to podcasts, like when I'm driving or when I'm at work, I listen to a lot of dub. I listen to a lot of funk. Like my 2 stations that I listen to are those types of music generally. And the funk station that I've been listening to sort of did this shift from sort of classic funk, old school 60s, 70s stuff and a little disco to all of a sudden cranking out all of this 80s electro funk stuff like Midnight Star and Zapp and Roger. And I really love that music. Like I've been digging it lately. And this song in particular was stuck in my head for like 3 or 4 days. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be like, no parking, baby. Like it just wouldn't leave me alone. And I figured it would be a good excuse to talk about something that I actually like with you guys as opposed to bagging on some shit. So that's mostly what's behind me suggesting this fucking song. Because it's fun. It's from an era where music like this seemed happy. The videos are goofy. They look super dated, but it just the Jerry curls and people doing stupid like choreographed dances. It's awesome. Robot voice. What's not to like with this?
I can just picture Nate just being like, whatever happened to rap when it was fun? Where's the fun rap? Remember, now they're all rapping about all this violence and sex.
Can't even understand him anymore, man. What's going on? Yeah.
I remember when rap, and this isn't even rap, but I'm just saying this was the precursor to some of that. But it's Midnight Stars, No Parking on the Dance Floor, which I assume means if you're going to be in the dance floor, you better be dancing, not standing. And if you are standing, get the fuck out of the way. Which then gives foreshadowing to Ludacris's "Move, Bitch, Get Out the Way," which is a classic dance song as well. So, all right, guys, thoughts?
One thing about that metaphor, that died a quick and gruesome death in the first 1 minute of this video. They took that metaphor and they stripped it of all metaphor and made it the most literal freaking thing. Like this lady was like not This lady was sitting in a car, parking somewhere, and like everyone was pissed that she was literally parking. It wasn't a dance floor; it was like on a street. So whatever
Yeah, it's
that
traffic. It was mad
whatever
traffic.
that or metaphor was, that ended quickly, and that was like the most clever thing. And when Nathan says Jerry curl, he's not joking. If you are a fan of Jerry curl, this video is your freaking Valhalla. Like there is no male head without Jerry curl. And there's even a couple of chicks there with some perms that resemble Jerry curl. Also, it answers the question: what would Joe Dirt look like if he were a black woman? Because that chick's hair wasn't
A lot of mullets. A lot of mullets.
There's some wild hair in there. And the other thing I noticed was those the dudes from Midnight Star. Their approach to getting white ladies to dance with them, I don't know if you noticed that, was like just a sudden grab and pull. And there was like just like yanked them, and they're like, "Oh, cool, let's go for it." And then one thing that one other thing too is that at 3:55 mark of the music video, there's some white dude doing some weird shit like eating pussy like an epileptic clown or something. I encourage you to go back and look at it. I don't know if you remember that, but this guy just starts like he pulls his fucking mouth apart and just starts slapping his tongue around. And then he does like a quick like thing with his hands, and that was like the only appearance that guy made in the video.
I was gonna say I missed the cunnilingus part of this video.
Oh, dude,
Yeah, me too. I don't know what version you saw.
But that was a thank you, Nathan. That was a joyous video to watch. It was just except for the angry cop, the white cop with the black voice. If you look at the picture behind Dave, it's a black cop. In the video, it was a white cop.
The white cop, yeah, white
a
cop.
little bit disorienting. It was kind of like inverse blackface. But
it was weird because when he was yelling at her, I was like, you can almost hear like the racial slurs beneath the words that he wanted to say to the woman in the thing. It was it's product of the late 70s, early 80s.
I think what I was trying to say is like, don't yell at a bitch, just grab her and yank her, and everything's gonna be all good.
Grab her and yank her. Well, he was white too. He doesn't. It's the black dudes in the video are only capable of electrifying you onto the dance floor, which wasn't a dance floor. It was the street, as we're seeing there. Granted, you shouldn't be parking in the middle of the street either. It's a lot of double parking. But it was a lot of angry people in traffic, and then all of a sudden they're all getting out of their cars. Like it was almost like the non-dead white dance version of Thriller, where they all got out of their cars simultaneously. And when I say white dance, granted, there's mostly black folks in this, but they are doing the textbook Eddie Murphy imitating white people dance. They are doing it, and they're doing it with style. But that is the dance. That's the same like shift to one side to the other, and they're doing it all in unison and all that. It was kind of weird. One thing though that Nate definitely looks for in things apparently, there's fun. Everybody looks like they're having fun. My only note that right off the bat, when they were driving, like they were using those shots that were like weird, the weird, like you're on acid driving fast.
The very beginning of the video when it's all swirly.
Yeah, like it's like live. It's Saturday Night Live fucking intro. They do that same effect in the old set 1970s, the early Saturday Night Live. It was that effect of driving around with all the streaking colors and all that shit. But then they're dead stopped, and then everybody's just brought out to dance because the music is supposedly dance worthy. Jason?
Oh, I love Midnight Star. I think they're great. I love the vocoder. The vocoder makes it for me. Interestingly, I was reading. I'd read a book a few years ago called "How to Recognize Speech," which is a history of the vocoder. How to recognize speech is a like what somebody misheard how to recognize speech when said through a vocoder. Now, how to recognize speech. So they feature in this book because they use the vocoder quite heavily. They got popular primarily due to their use of the vocoder. They started off as an R&B band, like a smooth R&B kind of thing, and then they toured with Zapp and got made fun of for playing that mellow jazz apparently. So they decided to get a little funkier, and they got a vocoder going and put out Freakazoid, which is like the first song that they did that was a huge hit. which is an amazing song. And then they put this one out, and this one's really good too. I don't know. I like Midnight Star. I think they're great.
What's that keyboard effect, Jason? It sounds like the keyboard equivalent of a tremolo on a guitar. What is that? It's like I've used one. It's like a dial that used to have.
The mod wheel, the modulation wheel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a modulation effect.
And just to be clear, vocoder is what I would call robot voice that's in these songs.
Yeah. So Zap had similar things going, but they were actually using a talk box, which is that tube that goes from like it's a guitar pedal that has a tube that goes into your mouth, and you speak into that, or you form words with your mouth, the shape of words with your mouth, and it makes it sound kind of robot-y. But they were using an actual vocoder, which is a device that takes the signal of the sound of your voice and plays it through a keyboard, so that the keyboard is actually playing your voice. So you actually have to play different notes on the keyboard in order to get a sound to come out.
Do they use Talkbox in Living on a Prayer?
Yes.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, these are boomer auto tune. That's what you can kind of call this, because these are definitely the grandparents to what eventually would become auto tune, and which was highly used in the last 15 to 20 years, maybe.
Well, the vocoder was actually originally designed for cryptography purposes, so that they could transmit signals that would only be interpretable by somebody who had the right parameters set on their vocoder on the other side.
Mm-hmm. But you don't want to know what they were missing? The fun. And that's what Midnight Star.
Did any of you catch the guy that looked like a Prince lookalike in this video?
Uh-huh.
See, that's fun. The entire
More
band,
fun than Prince.
You know how when you go into like a AI image generator and you put in like someone famous, and it kind of gives you these different looks that kind of look like the person but kind of don't. All of the dudes in the band Midnight Star kind of look like AI Lionel Richie. Like they all sort of looked like they were slightly off versions of Lionel Richie. I don't know how they did that.
There was Lionel Richie, because the main guy who's like doing the lead off, like he does have Lionel Richie perimeter, but then his face looks like it got zoomed in on the head. Yeah, his face is larger on his head than Lionel's is. And then there's the guy that's with them, who, it's funny, it looks like a young version of one of the old men in Coming to America that are in the barber shop. Mm-hmm. There's the one that's not Eddie Murphy. There's the old one that's Eddie Murphy, and then there's one that's not Eddie Murphy. It's the not Eddie Murphy guy.
The guy that says, "Man, you ain't never met no Frank Sinatra." That dude.
Yeah, it looks like him when he's in his peak, and he's there alongside him. And I was like, that guy looks like the dude who's in the barbershop, only if he was really old. So yeah, there's like a lot of these background characters that definitely look like more famous people rounded down. All right, well, yeah, so that's Midnight Star. This shit was boring to me, but that's because I never really was all that into dance music all that much. I'm like, man, breakdance. This is like kind of also early like breakdancing. It wasn't technically a breakdancing tune, but it led to like kind of a lot of the stuff that you would hear that became breaking kind of shit. So
this song in particular was probably sampled like in tons of hip hop you heard in like the 90s, I'm sure.
And it made it better, quite frankly, by taking the fun out of it. And
you just don't like fun, serious. Dave.
More dark, murdering the parents and getting rid of Robin, and just straight hardcore hip hop.
You would have preferred this to be like a Derek Chauvin situation when she refused to move the car, rather than break out into a dance party like Nathan.
Oh yeah, like bring her out and fucking
kneeled on her neck for 8 minutes, and we could have watched her slowly die. You'd been like, "This is a good video."
I'm definitely editing that out. Yeah, there's no fun in that. Ramshackle. Jesus
you Christ. Said you wanted it dark.
I know you did, definitely did. But we're gonna, I don't know if I want it. I don't want to.
Fair enough.
Can't be having it that twisted. But yeah, we didn't. It is weird that No, it is weird to watch a time when like the police were yelling clearly, like, "Hey lady, you got to get out of here." But like, we know what he was really trying to say, but it didn't involve a fatal ending. So we're not used to that these days. We've kind of been conditioned for terrible, terrible violence. So it's kind of putting the fun back in race relations when you think about it, All right, Midnight Star. thumbs up. Finally, Nathan bringing some fun back to the song selections. Not enough. Yeah, we didn't have to trash this one completely. Other than just really, find the dance floor. I mean, that's my only thing. They were parking on the street, man. Put it in a dance floor. They should have found a club eventually. Maybe the budget wasn't there. I mean, they were definitely walking around long enough. They could have found one. All right, that's been our show, everybody. I want to thank everybody. Jason on location, Nathan from Newark, Ramshackle Dan. Another fun episode of Meaningful Times with Friends. We hope you have fun with your friends as we do here. Jason didn't look like he had fun this entire time. Fucking lighten the fuck up over there, Jason. All right, dudes, have a good one, and we'll see you next time.